about a heaven in Alberta, where they've got all hell for basements. Yeah, I lost my way, but I hear tell about a heaven in Alberta, where they've got all hell for basements.
Hi, everyone. Frankie here. New West Reset. Hello. How's it going? Welcome back, and thank you very much for shooting in, joining a fella here for another one. Another live stream, as a matter of fact. New West Reset Live, episode 6-9er here tonight, this evening, this afternoon, this morning, whatever the case may be. Just a skosh, a titch, a tad. Past 5 p.m. local time here, mountain time. And as always, we're coming at you from Calgary, here in Purdy, Alberta. Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Friday, June the 7th. Can you believe that? June 7th already. Friday, June the 7th, 2024. Beautiful day today. Pretty much sunny all day. A little windy, but what are you going to do, right? Cry about it? 20 degrees Celsius right now. This instant. 72 Fahrenheit is not bad for a spring afternoon. Early evening here. So thank you for joining. Thanks for kicking off your weekend here with me. We're going to be looking at, it's sort of a part two, kind of a part two to last week's stream. Sort of. Many of you know, I went to Pincher Creek last weekend. Family event. Had been there before and had taken some footage of some old buildings down there, the old Legion, the old stone building, a few others, whatnot. But a guy went on the goggle machine and looked on the goggle maps, you see, and did sort of a pre-walkabout, a virtual walkabout, if you will, of Pincher Creek. You know, scouting out some locations, right? Unfortunately, many of them no longer there. And also, I didn't really have a lot of time. And, you know, I don't drive, so I went with my folks, and my dad was behind the wheel, so he was calling the shots, right? So, you know, as much as I'm sure he would have loved to have humored a fella, it's not like he's going to be stopping every 2 blocks to let me jump out and run around a building filming it. You know what I'm saying? So tonight we're going to do said goggle drop in a couple of towns that unfortunately I either couldn't get footage of or just got limited footage. And we're going to look at, you know, some other stuff and, you know, the usual. See if we can find some shenanigans. So thanks for joining me. Appreciate it. Links for everything, as per always, will be in the description below, down there, you know, and whatnot. If you haven't already, please consider giving a fella one of these. A thumbs up, that is. Give a guy a like. And to all of you who have already liked and subscribed, thank you very much. Seeing a lot of new friends here to the channel. Really appreciate it. You know what? That just helps to push a guy out into the algorithm a little bit. You see, as we make our way to 2,000 subscribers here on our little channel, my friends. So thank you. Let me know in the chat, in the box. Sound off where you're shooting in from. Say hello. Say howdy. So far, we got Terry Light in the box. Yes, and that's right. It is indeed Friday. Joop Vanderbeesh. I know I butchered that, and I'm sorry. I apologize. In the box. Howdy, howdy. Cousin Vinny's here as well. Marit, hidden at plain sight. Hello, hello. Oh, BC. Oh, Naxup, BC. Okay. Well, how's she going there, eh, bud? How you doing there, eh, buddy? BCS World in the box, as well as Old World, Michigan. Kimmy is here. I see Kimmy. There's Kimmy. Washington State. Oh, come on. Just a little feller. That's fine. It's fine by me. I'm able to spend a little more time saying hello to everybody and interacting. And, you know, that's what these live streams are all about. All about. Anyway. Thanks for kicking off your weekend. Appreciate it. Kathy's in the box. Kathy's here. Hello, hello. So, yeah, we're going to be looking at some stuff that I couldn't get to. You know, Claresholm is a little town about an hour-ish south by southwest. And I managed to jump out there and catch a little something on video because we pulled in for gas. Because, you know, pickup truck, pull in a camping trailer, caravan, if you will, if you're in the UK. But I think we're going to also have to have the little man do the goggle drop on the goggle maps because I just caught a glimpse. See what I'm saying? And there's some wacky stuff going on with the mainstream story behind Claresholm. It's weird, as per usual. And then we'll look at Pincher Creek and so on and so forth. So as mentioned, links for everything in the description below, including a fellow's email, if you want to get a hold of me. Speaking of getting a hold of me, it's creeping up quick here. The 1,500 subscriber meetup. But a week and a half-ish away. Again, I'm sorry. I wish I could get more specific earlier to give more notice to anybody who wishes to join me for a walkabout of Inglewood. But I'm flying by the seat of my pants because of the weather. Right, June is our wettest month, and it's hard to predict in advance. We're kind of shooting for Sunday the 16th, if not the 23rd, the following Sunday. And this all just depends on the weather. Now, so far, Saturday is supposed to rain, so I think Sunday is going to rain too. So, you know, it's not fun to go, you know, do a mudflood tour of a bunch of old brick and sandstone buildings and churches and old schools and whatnot when it's raining on a bunch of fine folks, you know. But I mean, it's definitely going to be in June. That's the best I can do. I'm sorry. But, you know, that's why, you know, if you're interested in joining and you want to keep in touch on the scoop, shoot a guy an email and then we can correspond. Of course, keep it locked here onto the channel. Keep your ocular sphericals locked in. As we get closer, updates shall ensue. I've been there myself, actually, Terry. The Olympic Peninsula in Washington State, Washington. Yeah, I'm not sure. There's a few. There's a couple of people. So yeah, we'll see. Like I said, I'll as we get closer and I can nail it in terms of the weather, whether it's the 16th or the 23rd, then I'll drop videos as we get closer. But yeah, if you're in the city, if you're in Calgary, or you think you're going to be in Calgary those weekends and you live close by, you want to do the meetup Inglewood for Inglewood? It's great, man. We did the last year for the 1,000 subscribers. We did Stephen Avenue, historic Stephen Avenue, with a whole bunch of old world buildings. Again, churches and brick buildings, stone buildings, the old city hall. It was fantastic. Had a great time. Been to Oregon as well, but just to Portland, the city of Portland. Kind of drove from Washington to Portland, and then back up into Washington. So didn't really get a chance to kind of zip around in there, you know. Oh yeah, fellas are going to be going to Banff for sure. Kind of kicked around the idea of trying to do Banff this summer, but I've already sort of locked in Edmonton for the summer. So I don't know. Maybe next summer. I mean, it's not going anywhere. I mean, let's face it. I'm going to check out the Cave and Basin with the hot springs. I'm going to check out the Banff Springs Hotel. I'm going to check out a couple of other old buildings and suspicious stone walls. Hey, if you're familiar with Banff, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, that stuff ain't going nowhere. But you never know. Good reason to subscribe and all that fun stuff. Yeah, it was Calgary to Vancouver, then down to Seattle, Washington, then spent a couple of days in Washington State driving around, then went back to Seattle because that was kind of the home base-ish in Washington there, then drove down to Portland, spent a day there, then drove back up, and then came across through Idaho, Spokane and Coeur d'Alene and so on, and then up in through the super western southern Alberta through the Crow's Nest Pass, kind of where we're going to be looking at here tonight. Speaking of which, let's have a look on the goggle machine here, exactly where feller's talking about. There's a train going by. Terry thinks she's anxiously awaiting the siren. No siren yet. Well, fire truck went by about, I don't know, an hour ago. But so far, no no ambulance or fire yet. But you can guarantee it. Come on, you can lock it, put it in your pocket, take it to the bank, put it in your safety deposit box. Guarantee it. There's going to be a siren at some point during the live stream. You know it. Anyways, let me share what we're looking at here on the goggle maps. So here I am here in Calgary, right? So we drove down the number 2 highway south, boop boop boop. So you go through Okotoks, High River, Nanton, Claire's Home's where we stopped for gasoline. So we'll have a closer look at that. And it ended up in Pincher Creek. You kind of make a sort of a hard right and start heading more westerly-ish towards the mountains here to Pincher Creek. So it's sort of a ring road-ish that you turn before you actually go through Fort McLeod. And that's a whole other thing. A guy's got to go here, check it out. Last week, we were kind of looking in this area at some anomalies in terms of weird geological stuff, like, just crazy stuff. Anyway, check out the channel for past live streams. I keep all that stuff up on the channel. That's the other thing, too, if you're new to the channel. First, hello, thank you, welcome. Secondly, and B, check out on my channel, the homepage. I've got almost 400 videos. I've got live streams and everything. Guys got playlists and stuff too. So, it's easy to find all this nonsense. Anyway, so we're going to have a look at Claire's Home and Pincher Creek. Let's see what we've got here. Let's start with Claire's Home. By the way, I got a new mouse, and whew, wow, it's as responsive as a German engineered sports car, an Italian roadster, something good. Of course, the Wikipedia, Claire's Home. Town in southern Alberta, Canadian land, located on highway number 2. Approximately 57 miles or 91 clicks northwest of the city of Lethbridge and 125 kilometers or 78 miles south of Cowtown, Calgary. Now, some famous suffragette lady is from there. So there's that. There you go. She became a member of the Legislative Assembly in the 1917 election or something. So there you go. Location was originally a watering stop for steam engines on the Canadian Pacific Railway line, which seems odd because it's not that far south of Calgary. So if they're pulling out of the main rail yard of the station in Calgary, it would have already taken on water. And it also passes through Nanton before getting to Claire's Home. And Nanton's famous for its spring water. So there's water in Nanton. But anyway, moving on here. It was along the McLeod Trail rail line, which is now the name for the number 2 highway south going through Calgary, like the city limits itself. It's called McLeod Trail. The trains first arrived in the area in 1891. First settlers arrived in 1902. So it was a watering station for the railroad, but there wasn't even a town there. The train came through there by 1891, and they would just stop for water. And then settlers came in 1902. That's pretty late. And the village was established in 1903. Claire's Home was incorporated as a town in 1905. Hey, the year Alberta became a province. The community was named after Claire Niblock, a pioneer citizen. So Claire's Home, but wouldn't that be Claire's Home, H-O-M-E, not H-O-L-M? I mean, I'm not an English teacher or anything. I'm just a simple fella here with a microphone, but sheesh. 1913, Alberta established a demonstration farm and school of agriculture at Claire's Home. The first hospital in Claire's Home opened in 1921 and was replaced by the current hospital in 1939. Royal Canadian Air Force Station, Claire's Home, was established near the town in 1941 to train pilots for service in WW2. First opened June 9th, 1941 as a British Commonwealth Air Training Plan base number 15, service flying training school. That's a mouthful. Operated at the base from its opening until March 45. In 51, the base was used to train pilots for the Korean War and operated as a number 3 flying training school. It's also trained NATO pilots. Oh, great. Base closed at 58, and the hangars were converted to industrial use. A portion of the former base operates as Claresholm Industrial Airport. Among the artifacts in the Claresholm Museum from the airbase is a Link trainer, which is a machinery to teach people how to communicate with the Roger 10-4 over and out. Yep, whoop, there it is. Yep, 1913. Again, we were just talking about that, weren't we? The Claresholm Highway Massacre. Yeesh. Took place just north of Claresholm on Alberta Highway number 2 on December 15th, 2011. Suspect deleted 3 people, then turned the bang stick on himself in a, well, you get the rest. The guy's trying to avoid the angry YouTube mob algorithm thing, you know. So that's nice. Out of everything that they could put on this, you know, what are they famous for? Oh, you know, a flying school, and a railroad came through there to take on water. And, you know, there was some good grazing there. So people started settling and farming and ranching there. No, we're going to put this Claresholm Highway Massacre. Yeesh. It's not exactly what you want to write home to mother about, but hey, there you go. Let's see what else we got here. The shenanigans. Oh yeah, this training school. Interesting photomographs. Links for all of these in the description. Once again, this is communitystories.ca. That says it all right there, stories. But anyways, the British Commonwealth Air Training Plan comes to town. So the beginning of WW2, United Kingdom, Canada, New Zealand, Australia signed an agreement creating the British Commonwealth Air Training Plan, signed by William Lyon Mackenzie King, our Prime Minister back then. In December of 1939 in Ottawa, the plan called for 50,000 aircrew to be trained per year to support the war effort for as long as necessary. Each country was to supply a certain number of troops to reach their quota. Right. It's commodity. It's turning humans into commodities. As a result, Canada's quota was to supply 13,000 troops per year. Why Claresholm? Because it's flat. There's the thumbnail photo if you recognize it. You could watch your dog run away for about 4.5 days. I mean, you can't sneak up on anybody in Claresholm. There's deer all over these here prairies because they just come in and eat the grain and whatever, nums. But you can't sneak up on them to hunt deer here. It's impossible. Anyways, it's an ideal place for a Royal Canadian Air Force training facility. Clear skies with flat, wide open terrain made it suitable for flight training day and night. It was one of 17 service flying training schools in Alberta. I didn't even know that Alberta had one, never mind 17 of these things. And I live here, man. And I've been to Claresholm lots of times, or driven through it, or stopped there, or, you know, gone and grabbed a coffee and a donut on a road trip, or camping nearby. You know what I'm saying, man? I ain't heard none of this. This was wacky to me. Anyways, convenient midway point between Calgary and Lethbridge. It was a short flight to and from all other regional locations, such as Edmonton and so on. Got some construction photos there of the hangar. I guess. Huge. So it opened number 15 on June 9th, 1941, and training began right away. Yeah, can't wait to send them boys off to die fiery deaths while crashing out of the sky. So, as mentioned earlier, we stopped in Claresville. Got some footage. Let me just pause it here. Now, hopefully, I think you can hear me over these video thingies when we do these. Pretty sure. Yeah. Okay. So we stopped for gas. So I jumped out and, well, you'll see. So a couple of really nice little 2-story brickers with some sandstone detailing around the windows and some of that molded tin trim as well along the eave or the ridge line of the roof. You can see it goes up the side street there as well, right up in this this sort of side street that juts out. And there's a few more that go up there as well, but you know, a guy can't just run across 4 lanes of traffic, eh? Plus a turning lane. There's actually an old train station here as well that's still there. You know, just in basically in the middle of nowhere. We talk about this all the time here on the channel. When it comes to my personal experience, most especially in southern Alberta, it can be these tiny little towns of anywhere from 50 to 500 people. Sometimes maybe, you know, like Pincher Creek's about 3,000 people. But you could pluck those out of southern Alberta, boop, and put them at almost anywhere else in the realm. That's of, you know, this a town or hamlet or small city, you know, 3,000 or less, anywhere else. And it would be almost indistinguishable. And all of that popped up after the railroad decided, well, we're going to stop here and take on water. When again, it's coming right out of Calgary. I can't imagine. I mean, I'm no super duper expert on the old timey steam train locomotives, but I mean, I know a little bit about a little bit. My great granddaddy and my granddaddy and a couple of my great uncles, as well as 2 of my uncles and a cousin, all worked for the railroad in some form or another. Now, I never have, and I'm not saying you learn that through osmosis, but just from the stories I've heard and just my love of trains and looking into trains just out of personal interest. I know that even back in the 1880s, 1890s, you know, trains could go for hundreds of miles before they needed water. So if a train's pulling out of Calgary here, and the CP rail yards are just sort of south of downtown, kind of right in here-ish, give or take. You know, and the train's basically following what they said is McLeod Trail, which is what the number 2 is named in Calgary, is McLeod Trail. So it's a pretty direct route. You know, they could get water in High River because, as the name would suggest, the river goes through there, you know, or Nanton, which is famous for its natural springs. So we know there's water in Nanton, but no, for some reason they decide to stop here in Claresholm for water. And the town springs up, 1903, 1905. By 1913, they really got things going. Now, to this day, I think there's like 1,500, 2,000 people in Claresholm. But, that cute selection of nice little buildings, I mean, that could be anywhere. That could be in the States. That could be in some rural hamlet somewhere in the UK or in Europe, in Australia. Mr. Beast fan in the box. Howdy, howdy. Welcome. Thanks for shooting in, eh? Neuromass is here as well. Good to see you. Chassis Nick's in the box. Hiya, Chassis. Thanks for kicking off your weekend here with yours truly. Appreciate it. Just talking about my recent trip to Pincher Creek. Made a stop in Claresholm. Took a quick video of that, but it wasn't nearly enough. It was like 20 seconds as we were gassing up. So what do you say we take a closer look here, drop the man down. I think this is where we were at the Shell station. I don't know. We'll find out. We'll find out. I'm going to go on the wrong side of the road too and just hit oncoming traffic for the shits and giggles. No, I went too far. Oh, well, anyway. Or did I? We're not far enough. Not far enough. We're getting there. So once again, thanks for kicking off your weekend with yours truly. Appreciate it. It's going to take forever. Let me just advance a little bit here. I should have put a little pin. Oh, geez. Amateur hour here on the channel. Anyways, here we go. So some of them, of course, have been brutalist facaded in some form or another, siding or schmutz, But that underneath all of this crud, it's going to look more like this beauty here, for example, right? Country Kitchen Cafe here. There you go. Nice. Beautiful doors there. This is quite lovely. Sandstone here. This nice sawtooth or dog tooth along the trim. Oh, got a date there, 1910. 1910. People settled this in 1903. So in 7 years, a bunch of farmers all of a sudden needed this brick building. Milnes block. Milnes. Milnes. No date on this one. There you go. See what else we got down here. Down here. Oh, they really made a mess of this one. It's an old wood frame, 1903. There. Okay, that I could see. 2-story wood frame building, 1903. There you go. The old hotel down here. They really did a number on this one. Nothing. But this is all, I don't know. Looks like they've done something to it. This portion looks funny. Like it was added later, maybe, And then the whole thing was facaded in the same facade brick. I mean, this is what I would expect to see, Notice they had to build a shack, though, to go up the stairs so that you have covered stairs. Because at one time it was just staircase, I guess, a wooden staircase to get up to the top floor. Anyways, let's take a turn up that Well, I think the train station's around here. Let me jump out for a sec. Be right along here somewhere, I would think. Maybe not. Bear with me here, folks. Sorry. Is that it? I don't think so. No. But dag nabbit, I know it's around here somewhere. There it is. There we go. Beautiful stone building. So now it's a museum. Of course it is. Railroad museum, I guess. Sandstone looks to me like sandstone. Anyways, this, you know, a lot of the buildings here in Calgary look like this. A lot of buildings in the prairies look like that. It's not brick. It's sandstone or a combination of the two. Anyway, I'm curious of what's up the street here. Because I could see it, but I couldn't get there. If you know what I mean. Yeah, okay. See? Painted the front, but yeah, it's nice at least. You know, again, it's better than knocking it down, in my opinion. Bet you there's an old telephone building down here somewhere too, maybe. Again, they're not big behemoth buildings or anything like that, but, you know, they're size appropriate. I just find it funny that so early on, you know, these buildings that we see that, you know, are dated 1890s to about 1910, 1913, you know, they're virtually identical no matter where you look. These tiny little towns. I mean, why did they need all these big buildings? Old school over there, it looks like. I think that's modern. Yeah, it's a modern building. Made to look like an old building. Yeah, bridges and tunnels as well. Yeah, like everything just kind of, you know, it all just sort of looks the same. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, Tartarians, you know, came to the prairies of Alberta in, you know, in the, I don't know, whatever the hell, 1200s or whatever, and built these. I'm just saying that there was an ancient civilization that the knowledge was passed on or passed down or remembered or recorded somehow. And that's why pretty much no matter where you look, bridges, tunnels, little buildings. I mean, if this was a huge city today, these buildings would basically look the same, but they would be, you know, 12 or 20 floors instead of 2 or 3 or 4 floors, you know. Anyway, it's Clearsome. I wanted to see what else was down that street that I missed because I basically just got that one row, and that was it. The airfield is there somewhere. That's this weird looking thing. If it'll let me drop the. Not really. Well, let's see. Not so much. Not really. Nope. Nothing really interesting there. Not anymore, anyway. There's Claire's home. So we kept scooting on down the highway here, and then Fort McLeod's here, so you can. It's sort of the highway itself is sort of its own ring road. You basically enter a sort of a clover leaf. So if you want to avoid Fort McLeod, it's easy. So there's less traffic. Then we stopped at a roadside turnout. I don't remember if it was before or after Brockett. I think it was before. Anyways, and things set up. Like a sign. That was about the history of Pincher Creek. I've got that as well, I think. Yeah, I'll share that too. Yeah, kind of, right? It's just weird. It's like those are airstrips, but it's in a triangle. You think that, the planes would smash into each other or something? I don't know. I'm not a pilot. You know what I'm saying? Let me see what I've got here. Yeah, here it is. It's got a roadside turnout here. I'm going to end up, I did get some boots on the ground, by the way, in Pincher Creek. So this is actually going to end up in that video. I just didn't get a chance to get as much as I'd wanted to. But this gives you a quick sort of a summary of the history of Pincher Creek, most especially how it got its name. Prospectors dropped their pinchers in the creek. And then later on they were found, and they called it Pincher Creek. Like, get the hell out of here. Like it says right there was a horse farm for the Northwest Mounted Police, the Mounties, because, Fort McLeod is nearby. So this is where they kept the horses, and bred horses and so on for the Mounties, right? The police force. So all they have to say is, that horse farm is by the creek, and you use pinchers with shoeing your horses, horseshoes, right? Hence Pincher Creek. I mean, they didn't have to come up with this whole cockamamie. Somebody dropped their pinchers in the creek and couldn't find them. And then years later, somebody pulled out these rusty old pinchers and said, by gum, I'm going to call it Pincher Creek. Yeah. Just, it's ridiculous to me. It's just ridiculous. I mean, it could be true. I mean, it's so silly that maybe it is true. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, it sounds pretty cockamamie to me. Yeah, that's right. The Canadian Feds on horseback. Yeah. And they still ride horses too. Yeah, there's the wind turbines, because it's windier than a fart convention down there. Anyway, that's just as we were kind of sort of pulling into Pincher Creek. You know what else I'm going to share with you real quick? Yeah, you're getting a lot of spoiler alert. You're getting a lot of sneak peekage here tonight. This stuff's going to be coming up in a boots on the ground video here, but again, I'm just going to mute. But there's a nice shot of the Canadian Rockies there. The snow-capped peaks of the Rocky Mountains here in Purdy, Alberta. The video doesn't really do it much justice, though, because pretty much not that far from here, like 15-minute drive, and you're there. You can reach out and touch them almost. You know what I'm saying? Oh, unmute. Canadian Rockies look absolutely outstanding today. The sun is hitting them just right. You can still see that. Still have a wow. Slow down, buddy. I'm trying to look at the mountains here. Still see all the snow on there. Beautiful. Yeah. So it's definitely a lovely part of the province. I mean, it's a beauty down there, eh, bud? Beauty. So let's look at the Wikipedia and see what it says about Pincher Creek, as per use, just for, shits and giggles, because, I mean, I'm going to pre-call shenanigans. I mean, right here, right now. Mark it, that's it. It's in the, boom, timestamp it, or whatever the kids do these days with the video and the technology and the digital tech and whatnot. So I don't know. But anyways, I'm calling it. There's going to be some shenanigans. Some chicanery right here. But anyways, Pincher Creek is a town in southern Alberta, Canadian land. It's located immediately east of the Canadian Rockies, like immediate, like right now, east. 101 kilometers, 63 miles west of Lethbridge, 210 kilometers or kilometers, 130 miles south of Calgary. History. For centuries before European settlers reached this area and inhabited it, indigenous clans of the Blackfoot, Piegan, and Kootenay passed through and lived in or frequented the region. These are indigenous First Nations peoples, so, the Canadian version of American Indians, basically, are indigenous First Nations peoples. The town received its name, okay, here we go, wait for it now, in 1868, when a group of prospectors lost a pincher in the small creek at this location. These pinchers, or pincer, it's spelled pincers here, but the town is spelled Pincher, because that's how it's pronounced, Pincher Creek. But anyway, these pincers, which is another reason why, shenanigans, would have been used as a device for trimming the feet of the horses and thus had some value to the group. In 1874, so what is that, 6 years later, the now look, I want you to take note here. It says Southeast Mounted Police, okay? And you notice it's highlighted purple instead of blue? Because as a Canadian, I'm going to be 54 years old here in a few days. I ain't never heard of the Southeast Mounted Police. The Northwest Mounted Police, yeah, sure. Later, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the RCMP, the Mounties. That's what they're called today. But I ain't never heard of the Southeast Mounted Police, so I clicked on it. But when you click on it, it says the Northwest Mounted Police. But it doesn't say anything about formally the Southwest Mounted Police. It just says, oh, do you mean the movie? No, I don't mean Cecil B. DeMille's movie. far as I know, they've always been called the Northwest Mounted Police since their inception, that is, based on they patrolled the Northwest Territories in Canada after it was changed from Rupert's Land, being held by the Hudson's Bay Company. We've covered all this cockamamie crap on the channel. But I mean, nothing about the Southeast Mounted Police. I don't know. If you're a Canadian, let me know in the box, in the chat, if you've ever heard of the Southeast Mounted Police before. Because again, it doesn't. You hover over it and it says, no, Northwest Mounted Police. So I don't know if it's a typo and it needs correction. I have no idea. Oh, shucks. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you. Very kind. I mean, I wasn't, didn't really throw that out there to be an attention whore. I was just making a point that, I'm fairly long in the tooth here already, and I ain't never heard of that before. Anyways, so they came to southern Alberta, and once one of them discovered the rusting tools in the creek, and they named the area Pincher Creek. Pincher Creek was officially listed as a place name in the Geological Survey report in 1880. 1876, the Northwest Mounted Police, same link. So this and this take you to the same thing. Established a horse farm in the area. It closed in 1881, so only 5 years. Okay. But many of the troops stayed to help the town. What town? James Schofield? I'm going to call it Schofield because it sounds like the pew pew and it sounds cooler. But anyways, opened Pincher Creek's first store in 1884. By 1885, Pincher Creek had a store known as Schofield and Hyde General Store. Harry Hyde succeeded Schofield as Pincher Creek's first postmaster. Go back a ways here, this Pincher Creek. Considering towns between Calgary and Pincher Creek developed later, like Claire's home, settlers didn't really come in until 1903. But here, Pincher Creek's it's already booming. 1898, it's a village. 1906, it was incorporated as a town, named Pincher Creek. And many of the residents of pioneer families who settled there over 100 years ago still live there today. And they have a pioneer cemetery right in town, too. It's quite interesting. So there you go. The Mounties down there protecting I don't know what from I don't know what in the middle of nowhere. Something to do with American whiskey bootleggers, probably, because it's so close to the American border. I don't know. It's ridiculous. Yeah, that's right. Mr. Beast fan says we have OPP. Yeah, the Ontario Provincial Police. Yeah. So you have let's say you live in Toronto, right? Toronto, the T-Dot. You'll have the city police, the Toronto Metropolitan Police Service, or whatever they're called, right? Then you have the OPP, the provincial cops. That's like the state troopers here in Canada land. Then you have the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the Mounties, the federal police. And they get you coming or going down there. Can't even jaywalk without somebody rolling up on you. Jabberoo Joe in the box says the migratory police. Yeah, just like them famous Canadian geese, right? The killer cobra chickens. Right? The murder turkeys. They migrate. There's not much going on down there. There's oil. There's beautiful Waterton Lakes National Park right there. That's lovely. They got the Head Smashed In Buffalo Jump, which isn't that far away. And there's some ski. Oh, yeah, and they got a little airport. But, yeah, just this little town. It's tiny little town. Wait, what? Terry's saying, wait. That page called Climate Change in Town? Where? Climate. Oh, climate. Strong Chinook winds often blow off the mountains, and Pincher Creek can be extremely windy. Yes, well, southern Alberta, but yeah, Pincher Creek's kind of a joke. Pincher Creek, Lethbridge, Medicine Hat, it's a joke. It's a local running gag that it's windy. The Old Man River and Castle River valleys seem to act as a kind of funnel for air masses, arguably making the area around Pincher Creek the windiest in Alberta. There you go. Any typical day may see the wind speeds of 50 to 90 kilometers per hour. Most violent recorded wind. Violent, they say. Violent wind. But you have to have a consciousness to be violent? Well, no, I guess not. Anyways, being 177 kilometers an hour. Wow. No idea what that is in miles. Sorry, eh? Strong winds have given rise to a significant amount of wind farm developments in the area. Yeah, towers, blade, wind turbines, yada, 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 yada. Devon was severely affected by a flood that hit the area in 1995. As the peak stream flow discharge of the creek that gave the town its name was 271 cubic meters per second. And something about January 62, a dramatic weather change happened in the area. The temperature in the area rose by 41 degrees Celsius or 74 Fahrenheit from minus 19 degrees Celsius, minus 2 Fahrenheit, to plus 22 Celsius, 72 degrees Fahrenheit in only a few hours. Yeah, it's from the Chinook winds, man. Talked about that. It happens here in Calgary, too. You could have like a 30-degree swing, 30, 40-degree swing in temperature, or more even. 60-degree swing. You go from minus 30, no, maybe not 60, 40-degree, for sure. You can go minus 20 to plus 20 in like 24 hours. They're called the Chinook winds. Chinook winds. It's an Indigenous First Nations word, Chinook. It means stop farting in my face, brother. Chinook shenanigans, yeah. That's why, because originally, you know, that movie, The Revenant, with DiCaprio, originally that was being filmed in the foothills in the Canadian Rockies and around here. And the Chinook blew in, started melting all the snow. And Leo thought that that was, you know, because of climate change. Aha, see, I told you. Until somebody had to pull him aside and say, hey, dum-dum. It's a natural phenomenon that happens here all the time. It's happened for so long that the Indigenous First Nations people have given it a name. This ain't no, you know, because you've been using plastic straws. Now look what you done did, right? They went and moved it to, where did they move it to? I can't even remember. But yeah, the Chinook winds. Moved it to somewhere, the Andes, I think. Because all the snow melted here in the middle of winter. And they were like, what the what? Thought this was Canada, eh? Thought it's supposed to always be cold up here, eh, bud? What's going on there, eh? And Leo used that to jump on his climate change soapbox. That didn't work out so well for the fella. Let's see what else we got going on here. I think I have one more. Oh yeah, this is about the Pioneer Village and stuff, I think. Oh yeah, people don't hang wind chimes because you'll drive your neighbors insane. Either that or they'll blow apart in the wind and turn into, I don't know, Chinese throwing stars and get embedded inside of your house. You know what I mean? Like your neighbor's wind chimes. That's crazy! Anyway, you know what I'm saying. Yeah, now it's paper straws in plastic wrappers. Yeah, that's the world we live in. That is the world we live in. Anyway, I'll share this last link here real quick. Again, links for everything in the description below. Then we'll take a mid-show break, and I'll give you a sneak peek at your upcoming midweek vintage footage. But this is from KootenaiBrown.ca, Stories of Pincher Creek, those half-forgotten businesses from 1917. During the first the WW1 period, the ranching settlement of Pincher Creek was known for its well-established, thriving business district. For nearly 40 years, these local places of commerce had catered to the area's ranching and farming industries, as well as the ever-increasing residential population within the settlement itself. Indeed, by the Dominion of Canada census of 1911, Pincher Creek's population had reached 1,200 people. Many businesses already had long histories, but by 1917, the last full year of the war, there were several outlets, now half forgotten, that offered truly Western services to the community. Butcher shop and photo studio on Main Street, I think, 1890. Oh, 1917, he opened his photo studio. Oh, that's right. Okay, right. The butcher shop was Pat Burns, who had his business based out of Calgary. That's right. We looked at the Burns building and the 1,000 subscriber meetup walkabout of Stephen Avenue. It's right on the corner of Stephen Avenue and what is that? First Street Southwest / McLeod Trail. Anyways, yeah, so he was one of the promoters of this Calgary Stampede Rodeo. So he had a butcher shop on Main Street. Okay, and then the photography studio was there. J. Ivy and Company, which set up shop in a block owned by the Oddfellows Lodge. How the hell did the Oddfellows get down there and own a building so fast already? Big enough to, lease the thing out to a business. Anyway, the retail space opposite the old Timothy LaBelle store had previously been occupied by the Pivoters. Oh, Providers. Excuse me. What the hell are the Providers? Why is it capitalized? What's going on here? Promotional literature correctly asserts that this was a variety store with a wide selection of stock and goods, much like a thriving general store. Sold everything from an extensive line of women's clothing and fishing tackle, all kinds of specialty. Business had established its origins in Cardston many years earlier, and by the WW1 had a significant trade there. It was looking to expand its market with the move to Pincher Creek. Its slogans were, "We've come to stay and our prices talk." We've come to stay, invited or not. Oh yeah, for sure. Much like our Freemasonry buddies there. Oh, they had a creamery owned and operated by H. McIntosh. The Cell Electric Company operated out of the Hinton block near the west end of the business district, on Main Street. It promoted the Delco Light, a complete electric light and power plant. Advertising claimed that this new electrical system was easy to install and simple to operate. It promised to supply electricity to rural customers at a very economical cost. Yeah, we'll take away your free energy, and then now you have to pay for this energy. Even out here in the sticks, though, we can get you some power. Don't you worry none. Two lesser-known providers of professional services came to mind. One was the legal office, of course, of Ebenezer Beveridge. There's no way that guy's real. Give me a break. A lawyer named Ebenezer Beveridge? come on. Like, are you, like, this is...
What?
Anyways, who advertised himself as a barrister, attorney, notary, etc. What's the etc. there, Neezer? Anyways, he was a member of both the Alberta and Manitoba bars. I guess he didn't care that much about Saskatchewan. We love Saskatchewan over here on the channel. It's our favorite province to say out of all of Canada's provinces. Saskatchewan. Beveridge also dabbled in financial industry, as he had money to loan at lowest current rates. Telephone number was 77. Right, okay. Jeez, it just keeps getting better. Second was John F. Miller, who advertised his services as an eyesight specialist. He traveled throughout southwestern Alberta on business, stopping in Pincher Creek on a regular basis. His home offices were in the Underwood block in Calgary. So there you go. Ebenezer Beveridge. Take off. Take off. Old World, Michigan says, I'm having a beverage right now, as a matter of fact. That's right, Terry. Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Like, is there any city and province name more fun to say than Saskatoon, Saskatchewan? And I'm not saying it to make fun of it. I'm saying it's so delightful to say. Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. It's fantastic. Old World Mi'kmaq in the box. Quay, Nidap. Quay. Thanks for shooting in, my friend, my brother. Good to see you. PCS World says, I've been questioning stuff for almost 60 years, and I had a lot of problems growing up because if I questioned a lot of things growing up, because I knew we didn't build the stuff they say we did. Well, I remember as a little kid, we'd go into old Montreal. I remember looking at, the basilicas and the cathedrals and the old buildings right there on the waterfront. And I just remember even as a young kid thinking, this doesn't seem to fit here in Canada land. Like it seemed older. Well, they tell us it's older, and it is older, supposedly, apparently. Obviously older than modern Montreal. But one of the older parts of Canada is what the story is, right? But I also remember thinking it looks a lot more like Europe. It looks like a European city. As a 8, 9, 10-year-old just looking around at the buildings, like, that's something you would see in Europe or in the UK or something, right? And the answer is always, well, kind of, because it's French Canadian, so it's inspired by France. Vive la France! I'm like, okay, to some extent, sure, but there's parts of Canada land that aren't Frenchy French. It's British, always has been, British colony and descended from British colony, not French colony. But that has the same stuff, and then again, you look at these little towns, like a couple that we already looked at here so far. It's the same. It's just the scale. Again, if it was a big city, those buildings would be almost identical, just bigger. And maybe there'd be some huge churches or cathedrals, right? And maybe a building with a dome. But because this place has never exceeded 1,500 people, and is only there because apparently the railroad stopped for water or some guy dropped his horseshoe and pincers in the creek. They never really became huge cities or whatever. I don't know. Anyways, just a hair past an hour here. So I think we're going to take a mid-show break and give you a sneak peek at your upcoming midweek video for this coming Wednesday. This is some construction footage they say, from 1914 for the Pan-Pacific Exposition. Excuse me. You know, the old San Francisco World's Fair, basically, the Pan-Pacific Exposition. It's about 3.5 minutes long, and smoke them if you got them. And it's a banger, so if you got some headphones, give that a shot. And when we come back, we'll take a little bit of a closer look at Pincher Creek and some other nonsense. Stick around. Be right back. All right. And we are back. Hi, everyone. Thanks again for shooting in and joining the fella here for the second half of the show. Frankie, New West Reset live, episode 69. What's down there? 69. No, not that. Looking at what's down in the deep south, deep southern Alberta. Some stuff that I missed on my recent trip down there. Top half of the show, we looked a little bit at Claire's home and some shenanigans of the founding of Pincher Creek. So what we'll do, I think, is drop the little man down here in a second into Pincher Creek, and we'll have a look at some of the stuff that's now been knocked down and or moved and or burned down. Great. But at least it still shows up on the goggle machine. So there's that. Because Cousin Vinny was trying to communicate to a guy while I was down there that, hey, there's this place, but it burnt down. And then there's this place, but it's gone now. And yeah. I think I managed to capture a glimpse of one of them the last time I was down there, or maybe the first time I was down there. I don't remember. I think on my you can see it in the background when I'm filming the Freemason, or not the Freemasons Lodge, the whatchamacallit, the Veterans Building there. You know what I'm getting at. Anyway. So thank you very much once again for shooting in and joining a fella here, kicking off your weekend. We're back to the regular schedule now, the Friday live show. So yeah, thanks for kicking off your weekend with me here on this Friday. Once again, thank you to everybody for liking, sharing, subscribing. If you're tuning in and watching this after the live, thank you very much for taking all that time. It's like 2 hours at least, so thank you very much. Really appreciate your support as well. Say hello in the box. Let me know how you're doing. Cousin Vinny's here. Terry Light in the box as well. Got Neural Mass here. Old World, Michigan. Hey, George is here. George Armstrong in the box. I think I saw Headley Man BC. Yes. Howdy. Old World Mi'kmaq is here as well. PCS World. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate all that support. Jabaroo Joe. Always good to see you. So, yeah, we've been looking at some shenanigans here. Some shenanigans. A little bit. So let's open up the goggle machine and the maps here. And let's just get on her, I guess, What are we going to look at here? We're going to look at Main Street, Pincher Creek. I think's as good as a place as any, I think. I guess. That's where most of the stuff was. Hello. Here I am. Okay. So let's just zoom right in down in here. And at least I had the wherewithal and the foresight to pin a couple of things here on it and shenanigans. Anyways, let's take the guy down. Let's start off in this cute little wooden church here. Nothing significantly old world about this. I just thought it was a cute little old church with some nice leaded stained glass in there. Of course, is there a weather vane on a church? It's a new one on me, but okay. Anyway. So you can see what they've done is they've repurposed a lot of these old buildings. Okay, they've put a new front on it. They've brutal facaded the thing, painted over the brick, put in modern windows, put this more permanent canopy style awning crud over it. And it's interspersed with buildings built in the 50s, the 70s, the 80s, whenever, whoever, right? These here, perhaps showing some evidence of arch, although that doesn't look too architecturally stable. This looks like it was just refacaded with maybe repurposed old brick. Oh yeah, because it's cinder block there. Yeah, see? This might be one of those wood framed 2-story buildings, but behind this rectangular front facade. It's actually got a traditional peaked roof behind it. You can see here. But the place that burned down and is now a gravel parking lot is the old King Eddie Hotel. The King Edward. Every Canadian town, city, hamlet, or village in some cases is going to have a King Edward Hotel. I mean, Calgary's got a King Edward Hotel. Saskatoon, Regina, I think, Edmonton. Anyway, King Edward Hotel, 1904. Now, this, unfortunately, has really been messed around with over the years, but it's now no longer there. You can see where they hear the ghosting of some windows that they've blocked in. Then they covered this in schmutz. There's evidence of what I suspect is more of a legit original arched windows. Because you can see here where they didn't schmutz over this brick. They left it all nice because they've added some French doors out onto this terrace. This Nolans style outdoor terrace. And you could see where they just haphazardly whack this in. It's not even from this side to this side. You see what I'm saying? So this was an arched entranceway that they bashed open and retrofitted in these French doors. So yeah, that place is gone. See, this is what I'm talking about. A lot of these have been refacaded with facade brick and maybe even that cinder block on the outside. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Well, we are close to the U.S. border here, but I mean, it's the border to Montana. But you're talking about, like Georgia or Louisiana. Now, I would assume that originally this maybe had. Oh, no, it looks like there may have been a door here. Yeah, okay, there's a door here. I was going to say maybe originally this had one balcony or veranda or, elevated porch, whatever you want to call it. And this is a more modern version of that, but there's a door up here too. But this one hasn't been smashed open. This place is still there. This is another hotel. Again, these little towns. Why do you need so many hotels in these little towns? Who is coming to Pincher Creek, Alberta, where today it's only got about 3,000 people? When these hotels were built, there was 500, maybe 1,000, 1,200. And this is, again, has been really messed with. I know what you're thinking. Hey, what's that in the background? Well, we'll get there. We'll get there. Hold your horses now. This park used to be a building, too, that went belly up at some point. Here's a movie theater. I think this was built in, it was either 1938 or 1948. And it started off as a single screen theater, and now it's a twin theater. And this is still there. They're showing Furiosa, the Mad Max sequel, Fury Road sequel. That's a prequel. That's a reimagining of the Mad Max universe. That's a soft reboot. I don't know. There it is. The Legion. That's the word I was looking for. The Canadian version of the VA, the Veterans Association, the VA, eh? Sandstone building. Now, I definitely did a mudflood walkabout of this. You may have seen these in the background. I'm not sure. And then let's go up the hill. What do you say? Because everything else here, this burnt down while I was recently when we were there. You go up this hill to go to my sister and brother-in-law's place. And this is now burned down. And I said, what happened there? My sister said, fire. And I said, yeah, no kidding, fire. Thanks. But like what? Arson? Gas main explosion? What? And she's, oh, I don't know. Fire, she says. But the rest of them are like this. You know, an old brick building that's been brutalized, or a two-story wooden building. Let's... Now, I've done boots on the ground of this glorious thing as well, but look at this sticking out like a sore thumb up on the hill, overlooking this podunk prairie town. Brick and sandstone, double turret, multi-angular octagonal conical dome on it. Take off. Even this one here, this wood frame one, is really nice. Now it's been messed with also, with additions here and here. But yeah, check out the channel for the walkabout of that. This one's old too. The dormers, nice old wood frame. This I don't think is old world. This I think is like pioneer. You know, you want to say 1900 to 1915-ish? Sure, I can give you that. This is the reason why Pincher Creek is where it is. For whatever this is, this old world thing. So up on this hill, all the houses are like this, sort of quote-unquote Victorian or Edwardian, maybe early Georgian. Yeah, it's nice, right? Listen to this. PCS World says, I come from a small town in northern Wisconsin. 500 people. No apartments, but 3 hotels. One of them was the jail? Really? They repurposed a hotel to a jail? That's crazy. So here's their pioneer village. Now, if I drop the man down there, you can't really see anything of the village itself. They're very good at hiding it because it is a tourist attraction thing. So like you can't get the guy down in there, unfortunately. Come on now, quit playing. Quit playing. But at least if I hover over the name, it gives you an idea of its setup, like sort of a pioneer village, like the name would suggest. Very much like Heritage Park here in Calgary. Now, I wanted to go to this thing, even though the buildings that are there, they say all of the buildings that are there have been moved onto the site around 1 or 2 original log cabins that were already there. That's what they say. But unfortunately, time did not permit. But it's not going anywhere. And I have family that live here in Pincher Creek, so I can always go and visit again and try to get in there, get some footage. It's like a living museum, amusement park, interpretive center, museum, local indoctrination, propaganda reinforcement center. I don't know. This Antonio's Pizza joint, this building is still here. So if you turn at the old Legion, there's the backside of that beauty. You can easily see why. This is actually my favorite building in Pincher Creek. The house on the hill is gorgeous, but this stone structure is my favorite. But I have my suspicions about this place as well. I think this is an old building. You could see the street slopes. I think this suffered a bit of a mud flood here. And then it's been brutalized. Then further down, there's a building that these two buildings, this building here has been moved. And it's now moved on to that Pioneer Village site. So it was disassembled and moved. This one, as far as I know, is still there, I think. And this one's lovely, but it's not as glorious as this one. Let's see if I can get a bit of a better. It's tough because the trees are there. Trees are in the way. There we go. So you can see here it's on sloping ground, and they've, I don't know, done something to put a door out here maybe. It's got some kind of masonry foundation here. This looks like a window that's been boarded in or blocked in. Same thing here. But it's quite a, I don't know what this was. I don't know if it was a library or I have no idea. But between this, the Stone Legion, and that house on the hill, come on, man. Really? Really? Okay. Sure, man. Why not? Why not? Other than that, though, a little bit of poking around, there's not much left in Pincher Creek, unfortunately. There's a few more old, nice houses sort of down along, somewhere along Main Street here, I think. But again, it's mixed with 50s bungalows and 70s bungalows. Hello. This is weird. Just a random hump. So you've got houses on this level, everything's nice and level, and then you've got this hump here. I don't really see in there, though. Foliage, thick with shrubbery. Yeah, it's just a 40s or 1950s bungalow there, but yeah, I mean, there's a few nice Victorian houses, but a lot of it is pre and post WW2 stuff like this, right? Little shaker style houses or little oh, there you go. Nice, you know. Oh, there we are. Stuff like this is nice. But these are few and far between. Stuff on the hill is, you know, fancy schmancy. So that's your Pincher Creek. Let's see. Let's go back to for a second here to the Wikipedia on Pincher Creek. Got a couple of photos to share, but just kind of wanted to talk about again, the Blackfoot is they're the Confederation, the Blackfoot Confederation. They're a nation of indigenous, but across the border in Montana and Idaho, I think they're known as the Blackfeet instead of Blackfoot. But they're part of the same confederacy, the same band. And you have the Peganer, what are known as the Ikani, and then the Kootenai. So I kind of clicked on those links just to see, to kind of familiarize myself, because when I clicked on Blackfoot, which I'm familiar with, there's, Blackfoot are here in Calgary, and they're all over Alberta, Saskatchewan. They're Indigenous peoples. So, why wouldn't they? But when you click on Blackfoot, it comes to this Kaani. I don't even know how you say that. It's not, I'm pretty sure it's not Kane. It's like Kaani, no, Kai Nai, or something like that. But anyway, I'm like, oh, I've never even heard that name before. Kainae, Kainawa, Blood Tribe. So it's First Nations band, and they're self-governed, Southern Alberta. About 13,000 in 2015. Their name directly translates to many chief people. They're the enemy of the Cree, and they called them stained with blood, thus bloodthirsty or cruel. Therefore, common English name for the tribe is the Blood Tribe. I'm like, oh, that's nice. That's polite. What tribe doesn't spill blood? You're a tribal society. One would argue that the bloodiest society of all is our modern Western society. And again, not to the fault of the individual man or woman. These are the powers who should not be that are pulling the strings, of course. Much like the war chiefs and the council of elders and wise people that, were calling the shots, just on a smaller scale in these indigenous nations. So their linguistic group is closely related to Siksika and Piikani. And they're one of the three nations comprising the Blackfoot Confederacy. Okay, so there you go. So they were in that sort of area of the Old Man River, Lethbridge, this whole sort of region. And they had a hierarchy of chiefs and war chiefs and, elders, so on and so forth. I thought that was pretty interesting because I had never heard the Blackfoot by this name before. Howdy, Darren. Darren in the box. Good to see you. So then I was like, okay, well, the pagan, right? I was familiar with Blackfoot, and then I'm like, well, in that other Wikipedia page, they mentioned the pagan as well, but then and I'm like, okay, I'm familiar with the pagan as well. But when you click on pagan, it brings you to this, the Piikani Nation. And I'm like, okay. I'd never heard that either. But they're part of that same band. So they speak the Blackfoot language, and they're a member of the same confederacy. But they dipped into the US a little bit more, apparently. And then that third group was sorry, I'm just opening it up. Oh yeah, the Kootenai. And the Kootenai I was familiar with, but it's spelled in typical, well, you'll see. In typical Canadian fashion, it's spelled 11 million ways, right? Like the main Wikipedia page, he spells it, Kootenai. But then there's the Kootenays, which is, it's a Kootenai Mountains. There's Kootenai Lake. It's also a county or a region or an area of British Columbia. But it's also known as the Kootenaksa, the Kanaksa, the Kootenay, the Kootenai, geez, talk about adding chaos to confusion. Poor people. None of they've been displaced, most likely, but name has been changed a bazillion times. They probably don't even call themselves that. They're probably like, take off, you knobs. Why are you spelling it all different and stuff? But yeah, BC, more prominently here in Canadian land and British Columbia rather than Alberta, than Idaho and Montana. But their language is different. It's an isolated language. It's not it's not part of like the Blackfoot, even though they're all part of the same confederacy. They speak a different language. I'm wondering if maybe the Rocky Mountains and other geographical challenges maybe had something to do with that. Anyway, I just thought that was very interesting, especially the whole Kootenai thing, spelled a bunch of different ways. And again, they teach us in school. I remember going to school that they did teach us about a lot of the Indigenous First Nations here in Canada, most especially that I can remember after moving here to Alberta from Quebec. Because by then I was, 10 years old, 11 years old. So I just remember a lot more. And yeah, I remember learning about Pagan and the Cree and the Blackfoot out here, the quote unquote so-called prairie Indians that followed migrating bison or buffalo, supposedly, and lived in teepees, even though their own elders talk of lodge houses. But that's fine. No, teepees and wigwams. But lodge houses, no, that's no teepees, nomadic. What about all those big mounds over there? No, it's fine. Don't worry about the mounds all in southern Alberta. Not related to anything at all. Fine. But anyways, I wanted to grab a couple of photos because some of the photos of these are some sort of older-ish photos of some of the Indigenous folks, and some of them are what you might expect, but some of them maybe not what you would expect in terms of their appearance and their clothing. Anyway, I'm going to quit yapping and we'll just have a look. So you can see here beads and shells, tons of shells, and nary a feather in sight. There's something to be said, I think, I think some Indigenous peoples used some feather as decoration, and perhaps some degree of feathers maybe had some significance depending on whether it was eagle or raven, would have a different meaning. I'm sure there's some truth to that. But this image that we have of, the buckskin wearing, quote unquote, wild, savage red Indian on horseback with, all the feathers in their hair, with bow and arrows shooting at buffalo. I mean, you have to remember that only a few hundred miles away and part of the same confederation of Indigenous nations, but speak a different language and have a completely different culture. These would be Kootenai, what we call Kootenai. So sustaining on sea, fish and sea life for the most part. Yes, saw a lot of ribbon skirts actually at my niece's graduation over the past weekend in Pincher Creek. A lot of Indigenous First Nations kids went to that school. It's about half, I would say, roughly half. And a lot of the girls and a lot of the family attending the grad wore these skirts. Using dogs as beasts of burden, as well as horses. And again, more practical attire. Attire made from what they're sustaining themselves on, right? Yeah, you've got some feathers here, but everybody's hats are either hats they've traded or bison or some kind of animal pelt. It's probably coyote or rabbit. No idea what this is. Any idea, Old World Mi'kmaq? Some kind of are these bells or chimes or noisemakers? I mean, Old World Mi'kmaq, as his name would suggest, is Mi'kmaq, so East Coast. So again, worlds apart in terms of culture, but not sure if through powwows and meetings that, there's always going to be some sharing of songs, dances, instruments, clothing, trading. Even today in modern powwows, which are just big get-togethers amongst different nations. But yeah, this is interesting. Like these sort of what do they call those? Not really a sled, but like a skid almost. Yeah, I mean, I didn't, obviously I'm not, I'm not saying, oh, all you Indians, you're all the same. You all know. It's obviously BS. It's like saying, oh, all the Asians, they're all the same. No, there's Chinese, Japanese, Korean, and Vietnamese. And again, those are just the borders on maps, so. Anyway. The braids, maybe, you could almost expect that. I mean, there's a practicality to having your hair braided, especially in southern Alberta where it's windy as fuck. This is Chief Bearable of the Blackfoot Nation. This is new to me, though. I've never seen this before. You get a lot of small beads and shells. Okay, there you go. Now you got some feathers. There, you happy? But not what we're taught. This is Chief Crowfoot of the Blackfoot Nation. Yeah, and that's pretty much that's that's pretty much how for lack of a better term, the classification goes in terms of language, with a few exceptions, right? A few blips there, like, oh, that doesn't quite fit the narrative. Is that it? That's it. I think that is it. Just double check on that because I didn't really put those in a folder in order. As you can see, they were kind of mixed in with a bunch of other stuff. Oh yeah, that was it. So yeah, I mean, a couple of photos of horseback, but howdy, hippie. Good to see you. Hippie shake in the box, the best in the biz. But again, it's just like all these other narratives, right? We're fed this, that, the indigenous First Nations, the wild Indians out there on the prairies in the rootin' tootin' Wild West. Well, they all had the feathers and the bows and arrows and came running to town with the tomahawks and, and wreaking havoc and, lived in these little isolated villages along some river bank in these teepees, and you could never catch them because they could just up and move away. And man, even local people that I know that are Blackfoot are like, no, we have like lodge houses, man. Like, yeah, if you would go on a hunt, you would be gone for 2 weeks. So yeah, like you go camping, you bring a tent, don't you? Yeah, they go on a 2-week hunt. Yeah, they would build and bring with them teepees, of course. But as most, especially coastal First Nations, they didn't have to go anywhere. The food's right there, man. Just cast a net, pull out a bunch of fish and shellfish and crab and lobster, and not to mention, kelp and all that. And because the weather is nice, you supplement that with berries and you make bannock, quote unquote Indian bread, right? So it's no wonder that, some of these indigenous nations were painted with these labels of, they're the blood tribe, because they're so violent and whatnot. Yeah, just like any other nation, they're going to protect their territory. So maybe if somebody didn't come around and fuck with them, then they would have been fine, right? It's usually when somebody kind of comes into your house that you kind of go, hey, who the hell are you and what are you doing here? Right? It's rarely the other way around where you just up and go and kick in your neighbor's door, walk in and sit down and start eating his potato chips and grab the remote from his hand and switch it over to the hockey game. You start messing around like that and you're going to get yourself an ass whooping. But even before the Europeans introduced the horse, or I should say reintroduced the horse, because there was a supposed Ice Age horse in the New World that died amongst the other mega fauna, supposedly, cave bears and saber-toothed tigers and whatnot. But prior to the horse being reintroduced, as you saw in the photo there, you use dogs. Got a lot of firewood or whatever to carry or stuff to trade or whatever. So I'm going to carry some of it, and dog's going to pull some of it. Why not? I know the French Canadians learned that from the indigenous peoples in Newfoundland and Quebec and, New Brunswick and parts of Nova Scotia where there's a lot of maple trees. Ontario too, I suspect. And they used that when they were harvesting the maple sap to make maple syrup and maple sugar. The natives were just like, why don't you just make a thing that the dogs can pull, and you just put your thing on there, and the horse won't fit through the trees. Your dog will, it'll fit. Your dog will pull like 100 pounds. You pulled another 100 pounds. Well, yeah, and you got the residential schools and in quote unquote Indian reserves, that are nowhere near where those people's ancestral home is. I send you off there to Oklahoma. What? It's thousands of miles away from, we're from, like South Carolina or whatever. Like, what the hell are you sending us way up here for? Howdy, Eric. You know what I mean? It'd be like somebody bopping me in the head, and I wake up and I'm in, like, I don't know, Chile. Wouldn't be able to communicate. I wouldn't know what the hell's going on. Starving, thirsty, scared, cold, disconnected, discombobulated, getting bamboozled. Everybody, we all got bamboozled. Everybody got bamboozled. There's a few exceptions that, it's a lot of oral tradition with the First Nations peoples, whether that's in Canada or the American Indian. A lot of oral tradition. Things are passed down through song or reciting or through the artwork, whether it's, the needlework or the dye work or the beadwork itself, or whether it's through, other forms of art like jewelry or what have you. You can tell stories that can be passed down. And if you have something tangible to associate with the story, it helps you to remember the story. And you put signifiers within these relics as reminders. Duh, right? We talk about that all the time in old buildings we look at, and what the symbology and what all of the symbolism could be referring to and what it's hinting at. But for the most part, if it's oral tradition, one generation can't speak Blackfoot anymore, or they can't speak whatever anymore, then they don't understand the true meaning of the songs. I mean, they may be able to phonetically repeat the words in the Blackfoot language, but they don't know what the words mean in the song or what have you. Just as an example. But there's a few exceptions. There's some First Nations that had writing. Like the Mi'kmaq actually had a form of writing, so they could actually record stuff. Leaves a little bit less open for personal interpretation. It's a little bit more just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts. And some of the southern American Indians, right? Like the Pueblo, I believe, and some of the others, I believe they had a form of writing. But I think supposedly what they say, I don't know, the experts, I don't know, however they became experts. But anyway, say that if it was a nation of indigenous peoples that were more stationary because of the climate and the abundant resources and so on and so forth, and didn't necessarily follow migrating herds as much, were able to incorporate farming with fishing or what have you, and not relying on horse so much. They could rely on boat to travel. Coastal peoples, for example, right? That they could invest a little bit more time and energy that is not into gathering resources now, and could be shifted into, written language and so on. But I don't know who's to say, because again, the peoples have been shuffled around so many times through the centuries that even their own stories from their own elders are peppered with half-truths and lies, because they've been propagandized and indoctrinated like the rest of us. The difference is at the World Fairs, we were standing on one side of the fence looking at them on the other side of the fence, and they're looking back at us from the human zoo side. Speaking of World Fairs, as a reminder, we're back on the regular schedule, so it's great to have you here on this Friday and kicking off your weekend here with yours truly, Frankie, New West Reset, and New West Reset Live, episode 69er. Been looking what's down in southern Alberta. Some stuff that I missed on my trip that I didn't get a chance to film or cover or look at as much as I wanted to. With that said, though, again, regular schedule, so Sunday is boots on the ground. That will be what I did find in Pincher Creek, southern, western Alberta, part of the old original log cabin homestead. Well, you'll see. And then you already had a sneak peek at your midweek vintage footage video. Speaking of World's Fairs and World's Expos, construction of the Pan-Pacific World Exposition, 1914. As always, links below for everything we've covered, as well as my location map. Cousin Vinny's worked hard on that. Thank you very much, Cousin Vinny. It's Cousin Vinny over here. Cousin Vinny, Frankie Fingers.
So now you know what I'm talking about with the whole New West Reset thing.
No.
What?
No.
What I said about Frankie Fingers. That Frankie Fingers
yeah.
a New West Reset of the same.
Wait, what?
Oh yeah, she don't stand no cheating. She don't stand none of that.
Yeah, we just like to goof around here a little bit, huh? Nothing wrong with that. And I know some of you missed the show last week, and again, I thank you for your patience with that. I didn't want to miss doing a live stream, and I didn't want any of you to miss a live stream. So I had sort of flipped the order. So yeah, I really appreciate all your patience with that, and sorry, yes, some of you had to miss it. But we're back on schedule, sort of, because next week it's going to be Friday, but a late start. So that said, already we're throwing a monkey wrench or a spanner into the gear works. Great. What else is new? Speaking of below, also all my other social platforms, the BitChute, also the Fighting platform, broadcasting simultaneously over there as well. MeWe, as mentioned, also my email. Also, fellows PayPal, should you feel so inclined. And I got to give a shout out to Dina Lind and to Vaughn for helping a guy out with some donations to the channel, as of which I got me a new mouse. A guy's got a new streamlined computer box clicking device. It's more quiet. It's ergonomically more comfortable, so the fella doesn't get the carpal tunnels. And it's got a couple of little switches on it for things that I can do. So yeah, this old thing, this old mouse is yeah, it's done. This thing, it served me well. It's the original Hewlett-Packard mouse to my desktop, but yeah, it's seen better days. So yeah, get out of here. Anyway, so thank you very much. Appreciate that. So yeah, donations went to the new mouse pad. So yeah, thanks for the channel. So thank you. Appreciate that. So I'm getting ready to wind it down here. As per usual, I want to thank all of you very much once again for shooting in, joining me here. Really appreciate that. If you haven't already, please like, share, all the things down there, subscribe and whatnot. Again, the meetup is coming up very quickly within the next, it's either going to be the 16th or the 23rd, depending on the weather. So keep your ocular sphericals locked onto the channel. I'll upload updates as they come. I'd love to have you if you live in the city of Calgary, or if you think you're going to be in the in Calgary over that weekend, those weekends, one of those weekends, both those weekends. I know, sorry, but we'll lock it in the closer we get. But I would love to have you join me for a Mudflood Walkabout Old World tour of Inglewood. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. There's old churches, an old fire hall, old school, old buildings galore, all kinds of stuff. And, we can grab a coffee and a donut, or, I don't know, a wobbly pop afterwards, or both. Grab a coffee and a donut before, and maybe a burger and a wobbly pop after, or something. I don't know. Keep it on the channel here and watch out for updates, and I'll let you know what's happening. So with that, I think that is going to seal the deal here tonight for Frankie. New West Reset to New West Reset Live, episode 69. What's down there? Hey, ooh, I sound like Barry White. Hey, baby. What's down there? Episode 69. Oh, yeah. Anyway, I don't know where I was going with that. Other stuff coming up, Edmonton trip and whatnot. So yeah, keep it locked in here. So with that, thank you very much. Until the next one, take care out there, everybody, and have yourselves a good one, all right? Thanks again. Appreciate it. Cheers.
It's a mystery. It's a mystery wrapped in a riddle inside an enigma.